This is how to lose over 150 pounds in just 12 months. This is Phil at the start of his journey, sitting at 322 pounds, around 23 stone. And this is Phil a year later, sitting at 168 pounds. So he'd lost almost half of his body weight. I wanted to share this with you because there are so many valuable lessons in there for you if you're trying to lose weight to any sort of degree. Like, you don't have to be trying to lose 11 stone. If you're just trying to get lean, or you're trying to get into great condition, or you're trying to lose X number of kilos, this video will be extremely useful for you. So here's Phil at the very start, 322 pounds, and at this point he'd been training for almost 2 decades, but he'd spent the entirety of that training focusing on powerlifting, so trying to shift as much weight as possible. Phil had gotten to the point where he'd taken it a little bit too far. He was getting into his late 30s and he wanted to focus more on health and longevity as opposed to just shifting as much weight as he possibly could. I vividly remember when Phil and I had our first call, and I remember him saying, I just want to lose 2 stone and I don't really think I'd be able to do that. And then 12 months later, he lost over 11 stone.
I said to you, I'd want to lose 2 stone. And at the time it was like 21.5 stone. I thought 2 stone wasn't possible at the time.
So at this point, Phil was averaging 2 to 3K steps per day. He wasn't doing any cardio. His diet consisted mainly of takeaways. And to be completely honest, Phil didn't have a clue where to start. Realistically, a transformation like this takes people 2, 3, 4 years. But because Phil was just so relentless and so consistent, he managed to get it boxed off in 1. To start, we put Phil on 8K steps and 3 15-minute zone 2 cardio sessions per week. Obviously, cardio done in zone 2 as that's the most efficient cardio method for fat burning. And his diet was sitting at early 3,000 calories. And to be completely honest, I didn't make any changes for around 6 weeks. Reason being, he was losing around 1% of his body weight every single week, and there's no point making any changes if they're not necessary. So Phil continued to do that, and I feel like because it was such a drastic change from what he was doing before, just that having that routine and having that structure enabled him to lose a really good amount of weight in a really short space of time. After a number of weeks, Phil started to drop under that £3 per week mark. So all I simply did was reduce his calories or up his expenditure. Now, I think for the first 3 or 4 months, his calories stayed exactly where they were. And I simply just worked up expenditure because in a fat loss phase, this is my sort of ethos with everyone. I like to keep calories as high as possible so that you can take a lot of food on board, you don't feel that hungry, and so that you can feel fueled for your session. So for Phil, from 8K steps, we bumped it up to 10K, and then from 3 cardio sessions, we simply bumped it up to 4, then 5, then 6, and then we bumped up the duration. And over a number of weeks and a number of months, making those very small tweaks allowed him to stay within that £3 per week mark, which is just where we needed to be. Not to mention that in that 12 months working together to get that result, Phil went on 6 week-long holidays. Now, Phil was someone that was extremely water attentive. He held on to lots of water when he ate foods that were off-plan, high-carb foods, high-sodium foods, when he was maybe drinking a little bit of booze. So we needed to take that into consideration. Now, something else I want to bear in mind, like this 12 months working together, this transformation, it was not smooth sailing. Like Exhibit A with the water retention, like that definitely played some tricks on Phil's mind, and he will agree with that. And it's what you do in those down moments and on those down days that really dictates the type of result that you get, because if you have a bad day and you let that turn into 2 bad days and then a bad week, you're going to hold yourself back massively. So with Phil, what I really tried to reinforce was you need to focus on this journey long term. Like, this is a sort of result that's not done overnight and not done in a couple of months. It's going to take a considerable amount of time. So if you slip up here and you slip up there, it's really not a big deal. You just need to make sure that over this long period that we're going to be cutting for, so let's call it 12 months because that's what it was, if you can be on the money for 11 of those months or 10 of those months, you'll get to where you want to be. So to achieve this sort of condition from where Phil first started, now bear in mind that Phil didn't just lose weight, like Phil got into elite condition. He was incredibly lean. It does take a level of sacrifice. Now, near to when we did the photo shoot, Phil was on 20,000 steps per day, and he was also on an hour of cardio per day, which is a lot. But if you think a year ago, Phil was 322 pounds, doing no cardio, unable to do cardio, he was barely doing any steps. The transformation that he'd achieved, not just physically but mentally, was life-changing, literally life-changing. So listen to what Phil said.
Very proud of myself, shocked at how much weight came off in that short time, really. I said to you, I'd want to lose 2 stone, and at the time it was like 21.5 stone. I thought 2 stone wasn't possible at the time, and then that just went in about a month, and then it just kept going from there, didn't it? Made the confidence go through the roof. It's just made me completely different, really happy. Got no shame in myself anymore, really, so I just pretty carefree these days. Made me much more ready to do things and not have to think, oh, no, I can't do that. Go out with the family and stuff like that. You know, I'm in the parks, I'm up the ropes, I'm climbing up things and going around trees and everything. And then before I just had to sit down and stuff because I couldn't really be asked doing anything really. But now doing everything I can really is just to live life to the fullest.
So some tips in a transformation like this are to plan long term. Don't focus on the short term. You need to think the long game because it's not going to be a quick transformation. This is where hiring a coach really comes into play, not just for the knowledge aspect, but to ensure that you're actually doing what you need to do and to ensure that if you do slip up or you do have any problems, you get straight back on track because that's what's most important. And as I mentioned before, this was not a smooth road for Phil. I remember we were 6 weeks out from the photo shoot and Phil had gone away for 5 days and he actually came back 26 pounds heavier than he was before he went away. And I remember him sending the message through, I'll pop it on the screen, and I read it and my face just dropped. But despite that, he managed to shift that weight back off and actually lose a little bit more. So again, this wasn't a smooth journey. Phil did encounter some problems, and that's completely normal. Like, you're never going to have a straight run. You'll always bump into little things, even when you least expect it. If you do slip up, again, it's bound to happen. You just need to not dwell on it, pick yourself back up and crack on, get moving in the right direction. And if you can do that, you will always move forward in the long run. Remember, the aim of the game is not to be perfect. It's not to be a perfectionist. The aim of the game is to stay consistent for as long as you possibly can. This transformation was 1 in a million. Genuinely incredible. I'm going to pop it up on the screen again just so you can have a little look. So Phil lost 154 pounds in just 12 months, which is absolutely nuts. So hopefully sharing this journey has helped you out in some way. It's given you some tips or maybe shifted your mindset to focus on things longer term, which is going to lead to greater success in the long term. That's going to wrap up the video. So drop me a like, drop me a comment with any questions. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.